right, cuties, here we are, page 3 of the Mod 5 review. This is so much fun. Okay, I'm only doing this because I love you and you asked me to, not because I'm happy about it. I have a million other things to do. So you better feel loved right now, and you better do a good job on your test. That's all I have to say for you. All right, this one says, find F inverse, then graph, these same directions as before, right? Blah, blah, blah. Then give the domain and range, except for on this one, they did not give us our X and Y chart already started, but we are awesome and we can handle it. Okay, so this would be, what would make this a 0? I'm assuming you all said 2, and then a 0 there. And so let's go one bigger and one smaller. If I put a 3 in there, that's going to give me a 1. 1 cubed is 1. If I put a 1 in there, that's going to give me a -1 cubed, which is -1. If I put a 4 in there, that's going to give me an 8. If I put 0 in there, that's going to give me a -8, and that's enough. If I want to go graph that, that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see. How about we try that again? How about we go 2, 0, over 1, up 1, over 2, up 2, 4, 6, 8, over 1, down 1, over 2, down 2, 4, 6, 8. And then our graph is going to look, it's a cubic, something like that. This is f of x. Okay, cuties, so then we're supposed to find the inverse, or maybe we're supposed to find the inverse first. So to do that, I'm going to replace that with a y. I am going to switch my x's and y's. And now I'm going to solve for y. So to do that, I am going to take the cube root of both of these. So I get the cube root of x is equal to y minus 2, because these guys basically undo each other. And I'm going to add 2 to the other side. I'm going to flip this around and put y on this side, and at the same time I'm going to turn it into f inverse. And label this as being f inverse. Uh-oh. Got sloppy for 1 second, friends. Where's my correction tape? Oh, here it is. Yeah, I need that to be better. And then plus 2. Okay. And so this is f inverse. So it says find that, so I did. Then graph both. So I've already graphed the one. Now if I want to graph the other one, I can do it 2 ways. If you know what x, the cube root of x looks like, which is basically this guy right here, I could do it plus 2, or I can do an x and a y chart. And I can literally just flip-flop all of these values, which is freaky deaky. Okay, so now I'm going to go graph that little sucker. So 0, 2 is here. 1, 3 is there. -1, 1 is here. -8. 2, 4, 6, 8, 0. And then this one's 8, 4. 2, 4, 6, 8. There. Okay. All right. Now, if I could karate chop right there, can you see that one would land on top of the other? So those are, in fact, inverses. We are right. Okay, so this one is f inverse of x. Okay, so back over here to domain. If you're looking at the original one I drew, is graph happening? Yes, 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 all the time. So this one's -infinity to infinity, and the range is the exact same. In terms of the inverse, is graph happening? Yes. And is graph happening? Yes. And this domain should match that range, and this range should match that domain. Okay, that wasn't very exciting. Aren't these fun? Okay, sorry, I'm drinking my hot tea and you can't tell that. You just hear me go blink. Okay, So now this one says graph the given function, then find blah, blah, blah. So I'm supposed to graph this first. And my smart points are going to include what makes that 0, which is -3, 0. And then now the question is, what would make this right here a 1? The answer is -2. If I put a -2 in there, it gives me the square root of 1, which is 1. I would have to put a 1 in there to make a 4. That's another smart point. And if you, I should have done it this way for anybody who wants the A column. This one is 1 with an A. And the numbers that I want are 0, 4. No, that's not a true statement. The number that I want is a 0, a 1, a 4, or a 9. So what would make this in here a 9? A 6 would. If I put a 6 in there, that gives me the square root of 9, which is 3. All right, let's go graph it. -3, 0. -2, 1. 1, 2. 1, how about 1, 2, not 1, 3? Sorry, I'm distracted. Something like that. And then I can go all the way over to 6. 2, 4, 6. 2, 4, 6, and up 3. Something like that. Okay, let's go back and read our directions again. So it says, graph the given function. Nailed it. Then find f inverse, then graph both of them here. Didn't it just say graph and then graph it again? Poor language there. Let's see. All right, so y equals the square root of x plus 3. Switch your x's and y's. Okay, and now we're going to square both sides. And we get x squared equals y plus 3. And now we're going to subtract. Am I losing my mind? Okay, so I am kind of losing my mind because square roots, can we do that? We're only going to be putting in x's that are, okay, so let's look at our domain of this one because it's going to impact this one a little bit, I think. Or not, I think, I know. Let's look at that. So if we're just looking at this graph over here, the domain is going to be no, yes. So the domain is -3 to infinity, which means that our range over here is also going to be -3 to infinity, and we'll see how that makes sense in a few minutes. Our range on this is going to be graph no, from 0 to infinity it is, which tells us what our range is here, or our domain is here. That range and the domain are the same. Okay, so now let's go back over here and see if this makes sense. First of all, over in this one, we can only put in x's that are -3 or bigger. So what is going to happen here? We can only put in well, first of all, anything that's squared, this is always, no matter what I put into it, this is always going to be 0 or bigger. It'll never be negative because if you do put a negative into it, it's going to get squared away. So that's squared away. That's cute. Okay, so this is always going to be 0. So what is the smallest value that this thing will ever be? And the answer to that is -3. So that's why that's a part of the range. The domain, do I need to worry about what I put in? Nope, I can put in anything I want in here, and once it gets squared, it's going to be positive or 0, which is going to make this be -3 or bigger, which is why I've got my range being -3 or bigger. That's really hard to think about. Okay, so if I were to go graph this, f inverse, get x squared minus 3. Now this is the hard part. Okay, so when I go to graph it, normally I'm going to do this in pencil, actually, and then I'll finish it off with pen. Normally this would just be x squared at -3. over 1, over 1, up 1, over 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Boom, nailed it. And I go, all right, I got this. And I draw my parabola. The problem is this range is 0 to infinity, which means our domain for this one has to be 0 to infinity as well, which means I'm only talking about this part of the graph. I'm only talking about 0 to infinity, which means these values get left off because they're not a part of our domain. How do we know what's a part of our domain? Because the range of the original is the domain of the inverse. So that's confusing. I hope that makes okay sense. I got this domain and range first and then switched them over here just because we switched the x's and y's there. If I were to make my line here, you can see that one would fold on top of the other. Okay, that one was tricky. Ooh, good one. Okay, so number 12. Did I actually answer all the questions above? Let me look. Find the inverse. We did. We graphed both. Okay. Okay, blah, 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 blah. Same as above. All right, so graph the given function. This one's going to require an A column as well. You can tell it's going to require an A column because there's stuff going on under there. If that was just an x, then it would be a nice x and y chart. Because there's an x plus 4 in there, I have to remember what I want my cube root to be. It could be a -8, a -1, a 0, a 1, or an 8. You can call that a +1 and a +8 if you prefer it. Now, I want to know what's going to make this a 0, and the answer is a -4. That would give me a 0. Now, my next question is, what would make this a 1? Well, a -3 would. If I put a -3 in for x, that get a 1. The cube root of 1 is 1. If I put, if I want this to equal an 8, I would need it to be a 4, x to be a 4. When I put that in, I get 8. The cube root of 8 is 2. To get this to be -1, I actually need a -5. And that's going to be the cube root of -1, which is, in fact, -1. And then to get a -8, I would actually need a -12. Is that right? -12 plus 4 is -8. Cube root would be -2. Are there any restrictions here? Not really. So the domain is -infinity to infinity. And we'll check out what the graph looks like here. So -4, 0. You don't use these numbers to graph, by the way. You only use the x and y like you always have. -4, 0, -5, -1. -3, +1. And now I should be able to go 8, 4, 6, 8, which is a 4, which is correct, and up 2. 2, 4, 6, 8. Now I'm going to put it together here. Whoa, dip in the table. Let's see, right there and there. Okay. So that is what we were originally given. Now I'm supposed to find the inverse of that. So to do that, we switch the x's and y's. Now I'm going to cube both sides to undo that cube root, and I get x cubed equals y plus 4. X cubed minus 4 equals y. F inverse equals x cubed minus 4. Okay, this is a long video. Sorry, guys. Oh, I never actually did the range on this one. Sorry. All reals, right? Because there's graph happening the entire way. Sorry about that. Okay, now how do I graph this little sucker? 3, 4. And now over 1. Okay, and then over 2. 4, 6, 8. Okay. Again, look right here. If you were to fold it along that line, we'd be in business. Okay, so this is f of x. This is f inverse of x. So what is the domain and range of f inverse? Same as the others, all reals. Okay, that's the end of page 3. Thank you for listening.